Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you'd be interested in, then
why not subscribe?
First of all, I already have made a Crusadia, more pure Crusadia deck profile that can go first and go second on my channel. So if you want to check that out, then do that. And further on, this time I decided to have a look at more variants that you can play with Crusadias, get your money worth of this archetype, and another one that you can combine with so many different decks in this game. But with this specific one, there's two reasons why you would include this. First of all, Mekk-Knight Crusadia ties the two archetypes together, not really, but kind of. And also, Crusadia is a deck that can search a spell trap and works with a link 1. So setting up your Mekk-Knights going first or going second is actually quite easy. And Crusadia also works going first or going second. So in total, this deck has quite a lot of room that overlaps in a sense. But the problem is the deck is quite big, and you kind of want to start with your Crusadia engine, so you kind of have to max out on them. If you feel like you run too many Crusadias, you could cut a Leonis, for example, and fill in some other good stuff cards. Obviously hand traps and whatnots are quite good, but you can see it's quite hard to splash these in without cutting the engine. So either you'll brick more on hand traps, which can be good or can be bad, but most of your stuff is a one card play starter, so sometimes it wouldn't be that bad if you actually bricked on the hand traps, if you can stop your opponent from doing stuff with them. So it all balances out a bit. There's certain cards you can cut, I'll go over it in a second, but let's start off with the card by card. Crusadia Reclusia, obviously at 3. Arboria, one of the big playmakers of this deck. Protection and being a tuner can be quite nice. Tuner doesn't really matter that much in this specific deck profile, but you can do quite some shenanigans with this card. One of the least important ones, I would say. Yes, the piercing damage can be nice, and at least it has 1200 attack stats, which are important for stuff like Equimax. It doesn't come up that much, so this would be the cards to cut in my personal opinion. Triple Crusadia Draco, very, very important cards because you can recycle stuff and extend your plays. And Maximus, a card that is good to finish off games, especially in this variant, because you don't run like the Utopia double shenanigans and whatnots. So it's a bit better that this card is around, but it's not amazing. So I definitely run it at 3 because it enables like rank 4s and stuff, but yeah, it is one level under all the other ones besides Leonis, I would say. Another package that I like to run in this deck is the Inari Fire, the Nefarious Archfiend Eater, and the Jigabyte, because these cards enable rank 4s, which is quite nice. You can summon them when you have Magius out, can trigger Magius' effect, or if you want to directly go into the whole Avramax combo, you also don't have to summon them in the zone link monster points to, which is quite important for the specific deck, because then you can get 2 monsters on board and then go into IP and Regulex and whatnots, so you have your combo a bit more prepared than usual, because usual you have a few problems I'll be talking about in a second. Coming to the Mekk-Knight package, I decided to run 1 Blue Sky. 2 is probably a bit better, but 1 is fine. You can easily search it out. There's 2 cards that search this card, so in the end it's not too bad. But if it gets negated, then yeah, you don't have another one in a deck, which can be annoying in grind games, but 1 is genuinely fine, I would say. We run 1 Red Moon if you go second and you need to clear stuff in the grind game. This card is also good, plus it adds another name to the deck, because that can be quite important, because Blue Sky can only search if you have that many cards in your deck. So if your opponent has actually 3 cards in this column, then you have to search 3 Mekk-Knights with different names. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I'll only search 2, thank you very much. No, you have to actually go for the 3. So sometimes having a different name in your deck is actually crucial to the whole strategy. Triple Move Man, because this card is quite good with the zone placements, and can instantly get you into the whole Regulex plus IP into Avramax combo, so this card is quite nice. And also it works very well with World Legacy or Secret, which can give you 2 monster negates instead of 1, which is also not too bad. Also, it can get your Avramax out of the extra monster zone, which is quite fun from time to time as well. Triple Mekk-Knight Purple Nightfall. This is the card that searches everything. This is the card that comes in handy in the grind game, and it also has quite neat attack value, which can be important if you play stuff like Equimax. Problem with Equimax is obviously it points to different zones, so getting Purple Nightfall into these zones kind of depends a bit on your opponent doing the setting traps and playing monsters for you, but this card nonetheless is very, very good. Plus, if it banishes itself, it comes back. which is quite nice. Technically, you can protect your Avramax from stuff with this, but when it comes back, I think it forgets that it's been summoned by IP Masquerena, so it can be destroyed by card effects. So keep that in mind if you ever want to banish your Avramax for a turn to protect, or at least get it out of the danger zone. Then yeah, that is, I think, what happens rule-wise. Next up, triple parallel exceed. Very good to also extend your plays into the whole Regulex plus IP Masquerena combo, and also enables you to go into rank 4s if you want to run better ones. There's stuff like Abyss Dweller, Baguska, and even Dugares. Sometimes the draw comes in handy, sometimes the battle damage comes in handy, sometimes the revive comes in handy, but not as much in the specific version, I felt like. But in theory, everything is possible. Extender, Monster Reborn, and World Legacy Succession. You could cut Succession, but these cards are all free, so they don't add to the whole super rare, ultra rare count, which is very, 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 very important. Sadly, you need a Link monster for this card to work, but with running so many Crusadias, you should be able to have a Link one on board. You sadly cycle through them quite a lot, especially if you only play 2 Magius, so this is something, sometimes this card can be a brick in your hand, but most of the time it's not. Plus, in this specific variant, it is searchable. We run 1 Reinforcement of the Army because it searches Arboria, which is a very, very strong card, and adds another Crusadia count to the deck, possibly baits an Ash Blossom if people really, really, really don't want to find out what you're searching with it, then could happen, or if they already have so many negates that it doesn't matter. We run triple Crusadia Power because this card makes Avramax basically unbeatable, besides the fact that Kaijus and this kind of stuff exists. Other than that, yeah, your opponent will not be able to get rid of Avramax because of the battle effect and because of the protection that you gain through Crusadia Power. Plus, this card helps you start your Crusadia plays against hand traps, so I'll definitely say this is a 3-off, especially if you don't run stuff like Called by the Grave. 1 World Legacy's Memory. Card that is very good, but not amazing in this specific variant, because obviously you can only use it at the end of the turn, then you can't do Crusadia stuff before this. And what you would want to do then, if you draw into it, summon like a Purple Nightfall, activate the effect, search for next turn possibly, or even leave Purple Nightfall. Well, it goes, I think, to the hand afterwards, so you can't really do much, so you have to use Purple Nightfall's effect anyway. It's nice as a last extender of your turn and stuff, and going second, this card can kick your plays off, but it's not as powerful as in a different Mekk-Knight variant. 1 Crusadia Testament could run 2. With Avramax, you can draw 4, which is amazing if you already have your board established. Problematic is a lot of the time that if your only plays Avramax, which mostly will be because you don't see any hand traps and whatnot, you kind of bank your opponent not getting over Avramax, but that obviously causes the issue that they will build up a board if it's a monster deck, and they will have negates, so Crusadia Testament will most likely then not go off if your opponent actually does stuff, because your Avramax might not survive its own effect as well, but we will see about this one. Sometimes you play against decks where this card comes in very, very handy, and a +3 then, which it would be, is quite nice. World Legacy Secret at 1, you can search it, so yes, I would run it at 1. It's not that good if you draw it in your opening hand. Sometimes it can be if you draw it with Mekk-Knights and you lose them to Link Summon, then this card can be quite strong and can add extra negates, but you don't run that many Mekk-Knights, so this is actually realistic, so that's a bit of a problem. You could search it with Mekk-Knight of the Morning Star, but most likely will not. What you can do, you can also summon Parallel Exe's back, so this is quite nice. Or if you have if you decide to run 1 World Crown, which you could, instead of maybe one of the level 4s and stuff, you could summon World Crown back, which can be quite fun as well. 1 Vanguard going first. If you don't have the Mekk-Knight combo, you don't want to go into Avramax because you kind of know already what your opponent's playing, and Avramax wouldn't do anything against that deck. Mainly if your opponent forces you to go first, then it's usually better to just go for the Crusadia Equimax combo, so you have like a pop and a negate. Other than that, yeah, because they most likely have a Kaiju, but even then the Equimax thing doesn't really do much, so it's up to you. This card is also quite nice for the fact that you can place it and have a spell trap card that you can set to use your Mekk-Knights in. Other than that, you technically could cut this card if you feel like it doesn't add too much. A hand trap probably does the same kind of thing, besides the fact that it's searchable. Same goes for Crusadia Krawler. I like this card because it's a searchable card. You can place it in zones, so having more spell trap cards works out in the Mekk-Knight deck, obviously, because that is kind of what you want to be doing. Also, this card searches World Legacy cards, so World Legacy Memory is a good card to search, Secret is a good card to search, Even Succession can be a good card to search. So I kind of like this card as an extra extender because you don't really care about the zones that much anymore. And if you go into Avramax anyway and you already start with 1 power, then you might not want to search any of the other ones, but you actually want to search the Crawler and place it and get the search off and have another body on port, I guess. But this is one of the first cards I would cut if you really don't feel like it does anything for the deck. Like, I like it, but it's probably not good enough to run. I still tried it. It wasn't terrible. It pluses you at least. It gains stuff, but it's not amazing. So if you want to cut something, then this is one of the cards to cut. Psychic Life Transfer, because it's one of the better level 7 synchro, sadly, for this deck. You run quite a lot of Psychic type monsters, so you can actually use the effect sometimes. Maybe the 1200 life points come in handy, don't know. Zeta is a bit better, but also there's obviously very good level 7 cards. Dawn Dragster come to mind. Rose Dragon Black Rose Dragon is a good card, I would say, in specific scenarios. So there's quite a lot of stuff you can do. For the rank 4s, I decided to put in Firewall Exceed Dragon because this card can actually revive Avramax on the graveyard, because Avramax is Cybers, and this card revives 1 link for Cybers link monster, which is quite good. So that could do it. And Asophiel, because this card going second bounces a card back to your opponent's hand, which, yeah, if you don't have any of the good rank 4s, this is one of the better ones, I feel. Del Magius, I would probably say run 3 if you have it, just because of the fact that, well, in the grind game, you would want to have more. You can tuck it back into the extra deck using Draco, but you don't usually want to do this because obviously it cuts off your plays a tiny bit. LANphorhynchus, because it's free. There's some things with zones where this card can come in handy, but this is probably one of the first cards you could get rid of if you want to. Next up, Crusadia Regulex. Very good card, actually. Searches you spell traps. Could bump it down to 1 if you like, but I kind of like being able to search twice in the grind game can be important. Mekk-Knight of the Morningstar, a card that you don't have to run if you want to go as budget as possible. You don't have to craft this card. For pure Mekk-Knight decks, this card is quite nice. This card can be helpful if you don't want to go into Regulex and you rather want to set up, for example, World Legacy Secret, then this card can be neat. You go into Magius, then summon a Mekk-Knight into the zone, trigger the effect, get another Crusadia, and then use the whole Mekk-Knight of the Morningstar thing, then go into Ip with the other Crusaders that you have, and then go into Avramax. Also works, so you then have another World Legacy Secret that you can use, so you have 1 more negate. So this card actually does stuff, but you need to have 1 Mekk-Knight or World Legacy card in your hand already, which is a bit annoying because you sometimes won't have one. So yeah, doesn't always work because you don't run that many in this deck. Spatha is one of the cards that enables you to be able to do the whole Ip into Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avramax kind of thing, because this card can clear up your zone. So if you have enough Crusadias, you can first go into Regulex and then go into Spatha, which works, but a lot of the time you'd have to decide either or, and then you can summon 1 card into the zone, move it to the same zone, to a different zone, then summon another card into the zone, then you have 2 monsters, go into Ip, and then go into Avramax. So this is a play that works. Sometimes moving your opponent's monster in the zone can be quite fun as well, but usually that doesn't come up. IP Masquerena is quite fun because it gives some extra layer of protection for your Crusadia Avramax. Obviously you could run stuff like a Nightmare Unicorn, so technically you can leave this card up and decide what do I want to go into. Is it Disruption, is it not? But most of the time Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avramax is the choice of play. And 1 Equimax for the OTK can be good going first sometimes. So this is quite neat. Plus Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avramax can be called, well, is a Crusadia monster, so technically you can use this card to go into Crusadia Magius and then start your combo to end up in Equimax, so you can actually OTK your opponent then on the follow-up turn. But like I said, your opponent possibly will have negates, so usually this deck is more about can they get rid of your super protected Avramax or can they not, and if they can't, then you win because they will possibly surrender, and if they can, then you could be screwed, but there's still stuff you can do, especially because your purple Nightfall might be coming back and they have to deal with this as well, and you just keep them up a bit. But that's all the deck kind of does. Cards to mention, Cult by the Grave, very important because hand traps are annoying. Ash Blossom in general, very good because Max C screws you up a bit. If you want to run Max C and Ash Blossom or Infinite Impermanence or whatnot hand traps, pure Max C doesn't really help you all that much in your deck. It can, if you get Avramax off and go first, then this card is quite nice, going second as well. So like, in this deck, it doesn't really matter that much, but if your opponent gets rid of Avramax, then they mainly OTK you anyway, so it is what it is with these cards. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, I hope you have a good day.